Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. Please like and subscribe to the channel to give me more motivation to tell more interesting stories. Now, let's begin. You arrive at Hill House on a cloud-heavy afternoon, the kind of gray that swallows light and turns every shadow into a question mark. The road here was winding longer than expected, and the trees lining the drive leaned in too close, as if curious why you came. You haven't even stepped out of the car, and already the house is watching. It sits at the top of the hill like a bad thought. Its angles are wrong, its lines too rigid. Its windows, though closed, look open, like eyes, like mirrors, like mouths. You step out, gravel crunching beneath your shoes. The invitation came from Dr. John Montague, a scholar of the supernatural. He needed sensitive volunteers for his research into psychic phenomena. You needed an escape from the half-life you've been pretending to live, from your sister, from obligations, from yourself maybe. The front doors open before you knock. You tell yourself someone saw you coming. Or maybe the house just doesn't like waiting. Inside, the air smells of wood polish and something older, like forgotten books or dried up roses. The entrance hall is grand in that crumbling aristocratic way. The walls stretch upward, holding in a silence that feels pressurized. You meet Mrs. Dudley in the kitchen. She's the housekeeper. She tells you she sets out breakfast at 7, clears dinner at 6, and she won't stay past dark. Then she disappears down the back hall, as if retreating from something only she can see. You explore slowly. Each room has its own breath. The drawing room has windows that let in no light. The library has a cold corner where books never seem to stay upright. The parlor is too quiet. Even the ticking clock seems to hesitate. You pass a mirror in the hallway. Your reflection looks tired and somehow older. You arrive at your room. Modest, neat. The bed looks unused for years. The walls curve subtly inward, as though the room's trying to close in on itself. Later, the others arrive. Theodora first vibrant, witty, sharp-eyed. She says she's here on a whim, but there's tension behind her smiles. Then Luke charming, flippant, with a laugh that's too practiced. He's the heir to Hill House, the last in the line. He says he doesn't believe in ghosts. You don't believe him. Finally, Dr. Montague himself. Tweed jacket, old books, a polite smile worn down by decades of disbelief. He's excited to begin. He says the house is active, that its architecture was designed to disorient, that no corner is truly 90 degrees, that rooms shift slightly when you're not looking. You laugh. He doesn't. Here's an architectural tidbit you'll appreciate. In the 19th century, follies were structures intentionally designed to confuse spiral staircases to nowhere windows, without rooms, fake doors. Wealthy landowners used them to impress guests and unsettle trespassers. Some believe Hill House is a spiritual descendant of those homes. Historians still argue whether Hill House's disorienting design was artistic eccentricity or a deliberate method of spiritual entrapment. That night you unpack. The lamp by your bed clicks on by itself. Probably just the wiring, but you sleep with the light on. And when you wake in the middle of the night, you hear breathing that isn't yours. The next morning, sunlight slants through the high windows like a nervous guest, thin, polite, and trying not to touch anything. You rise slowly, the memory of last night already softening at the edges, like a bad dream that evaporates as soon as your feet hit the floor. Breakfast is laid out on a long dining table that seems far too large for the four of you. Mrs. Dudley is nowhere to be seen, true to her promise to vanish before nightfall. You sip tea. You try not to look too long at the oil paintings on the walls. Their eyes follow just a little too well. Theodora jokes about ghosts over toast. Luke smiles, but it's tight, like he's trying to laugh away the creak he heard at midnight. Dr. Montague, however, is already scribbling in his notebook, eyes alive. He's talking about residual hauntings, environmental impressions, cold spots, and electromagnetic spikes. You nod, as though you understand, but really, your attention is on the chandelier above. It sways slightly, though the windows are closed, and no one moved. You spend the morning wandering with the group. Theodora walks beside you. She's vibrant, magnetic, speaking in bursts of sarcasm and sudden insight. You look like you were born for haunted houses, she says, squinting at you. You ask what that means. She doesn't answer. The tour continues. Dr. Montague explains that the house was built in the late 1800s by Hugh Crane, an industrialist with a flair for Gothic drama. His first wife died before the house was finished. His second followed not long after. The daughters grew up strange. One of them never left. There's a rumor she still doesn't. You pass the parlor again. Luke tries to open the doors and jokes when they resist. You know better now. Doors in Hill House don't stay open unless you watch them. He lets go. The door closes by itself. The library is cold, noticeably colder than the rest of the house. Dr. Montague notes the temperature drop with a quiet nod. This room, he says, was where the companion died. You don't ask for details. You run your fingers along the books. One falls. No title. Just a blank black cover. You leave it where it lands. Theodora teases Luke about being the heir to a haunted house. You're going to inherit a legacy of bad plumbing and even worse dreams. He grins. At least I won't be lonely. The joke doesn't land. After lunch, you wander alone. You don't mean to, but the house turns. One hallway feeds into another, and before long, you're in a part you don't recognize. The wallpaper is different here, floral, with vines that seem to curl when you're not looking. You find your way back eventually, but not before noticing that the hallway led you in a circle, or a spiral, or somewhere else entirely. Here's a historical fact to chew on. During the 1800s, it was a common belief that spiral staircases could trap ghosts, confusing them into endless loops. Architects in Europe once built churches with double helix staircases for this exact reason. One priest called it spiritual geometry. Historians still argue whether this was superstition or if builders knew something we don't. That evening, you sit in the parlor. Dr. Montague suggests light music to ease the atmosphere. Luke finds a record Bach, maybe, or something like it. You're not sure. The notes sound warped, slower than they should be. Theodora pulls you into a lazy dance. Her hands are cold. You spin together for a moment, laughing. And then the record skips, repeats, repeats, repeats. You step back. The room has gone still. Everyone heard it. Luke moves to stop the record, but it stops itself. Theodora looks at you. She doesn't smile this time. That night in your room, the mirror fogs even though the air is dry. You reach out to touch it, and it clears before you do. The house doesn't creak at night. It sighs. Long, low, exhausted sounds like the groan of a ship drifting through thick, black waters. You lie in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling, counting seconds between sighs like they might spell out some secret word if you catch the rhythm right. It's 3:12 a.m. when the doorknob rattles. Just once. You wait. Nothing. Then again, click, click. Not turning. just testing. Like someone or something is reminding you it knows you're in here. You sit up slowly. You don't speak. You just listen. Outside the door, faint footsteps shuffle down the hall. They don't match any of your companions. They're too soft to be Luke's, too uneven to be Theodora's. They sound like a child dragging a foot or something not quite human mimicking the sound of one. You don't check. You wait until morning. At breakfast, Theodora says she couldn't sleep either. Luke rolls his eyes, claiming he snored through the night, but his left hand trembles slightly as he lifts his cup. Dr. Montague is pale but doesn't comment. He simply says the house is becoming responsive. You ask what that means. He says it knows we're paying attention. Later, you take your journal to the veranda. It's the one place outside the house you feel safe. You try to write about the hallway that never stays straight, about the doors that need watching. But all you do is draw the house itself, over and over. The same square facade, the same 4 windows, the same eyes. Theodora finds you there. She plucks the pencil from your hand. You don't even realize you're doing it, she says. It's already under your skin. You ask if she believes in ghosts. She doesn't answer, but her fingers tremble when she hands the pencil back. You decide to explore again, just you this time. You enter the parlor and sit in the exact spot where the record skipped. The rug feels wrong beneath your feet, too soft, like it might give way. You lift the corner. There's nothing underneath, but you feel heat coming from the floorboards, not warmth, body heat. You put the rug back. In the hallway, you see a door you swear wasn't there yesterday. It's slightly ajar. You reach for it. Luke calls out behind you, startling you so badly you nearly drop your flashlight. What are you doing? He asks. You turn. When you look back at the door, it's gone. Just smooth wallpaper. Luke laughs nervously. Happens. This house likes to pretend. Back in the drawing room, Dr. Montague explains how Hill House was deliberately designed with subtle disorientation walls that taper floors, that slope ever so slightly windows that refract light strangely. It produces unease, a state of hyper-awareness. Some believe it's the house itself that magnifies your inner state. He looks directly at you. You don't blink. Here's a fact from deep architectural history. In the 12th century cathedral, architects sometimes employed anamorphosis, an illusion that distorts a perspective unless viewed from a specific angle, meant to awe the faithful or disorient the sinner. Historians still argue whether Hill House's irregular geometry was the result of poor planning or design by a mind that didn't want the house understood. That night, Theodora knocks on your door. She says she doesn't want to sleep alone. You don't ask why. She brings her blankets and curls up on the opposite bed. For a while, you talk about life before the house, about mundane things, family, regrets, the idea that both of you answered Montague's invitation out of some subconscious pull, then silence, then sleep, until 2:04 a.m. Knock, knock, knock. Louder this time, not on the door, on the walls. Theodora bolts upright. You both stare at the far corner of the room. The knock happens again. Then a long, soft scrape like fingernails dragging across wallpaper. You hold your breath, and from the other side of the wall, a voice whispers, "Don't come alone next time." Theodora grabs your hand. You don't move. You don't speak, because you're not sure if the whisper was inside the wall or inside your head. You don't remember falling asleep, only waking up. It's late morning. Theodora's already gone, and your blankets are neatly folded at the end of your bed. You didn't fold them. You don't do neat in the morning. Downstairs, everyone's pretending. Luke reads the newspaper upside down. Dr. Montague is scribbling in his journal, the pen moving so fast it might be catching thoughts before he can. Theodora's smiling too much. Nobody mentions the knocking. Nobody asks why you're all pale and quiet and holding your coffee like it's a weapon. After breakfast, Dr. Montague wants to investigate key zones. He means the library, the nursery, the tower, and that hallway near the parlor where your stomach always flips. You join him because the alternative is being alone. You pass the grand staircase, ornate wooden, uselessly wide. It's where the first Mrs. Crane fell, supposedly tripping over her own dress. Luke whispers, or maybe she was pushed by the house. You pretend not to hear. In the library, Dr. Montague points out an architectural oddity. There's a cold spot directly beneath a beam, even though the chimney's on the opposite wall. He's giddy. It's like the laws of heat don't apply here, he says. Marvelous. You stand beneath it for exactly 7 seconds before your teeth start to chatter. That's when you see it. The wallpaper. It's been peeled slightly in the corner. Beneath it, letters. A single sentence written over and over in some looping childlike scrawl. Help Eleanor come home. Help Eleanor come home. You don't remember giving the house your name, but it clearly remembers you. You step back. Dr. Montague says nothing, but he jots something quickly. Later in the west wing, you pass the door to the nursery. It's locked, of course. It always is, Luke mutters. Even when it shouldn't be. You press your ear to the wood. Nothing. Then a faint giggle. A child's laugh. Theodora flinches behind you. You all agree silently not to come back here at night. Here's a bit of lore. Victorian nurseries were often placed at the far end of homes, quiet, separate. It was meant to give children their own world, but many believed it also made them vulnerable to spirits. One 19th century nanny wrote that the walls in nursery halls remember grief better than laughter. Historians still argue whether these stories were warnings or desperate explanations for things no one could fix. Back in your room, the bed's been made again. You didn't make it. There's a flower on your pillow, fresh dew-tipped, and definitely not from any garden outside. You throw it out the window. That night, you and Theodora both try sleeping in the same room again, just in case. At 1:48 a.m., the lights dim, not flicker, just dim, like someone adjusted the dial on reality. Then silence. Then a knock at the door. You both freeze. Then a second knock, followed by a third, which doesn't come from the door, but from inside the room's wardrobe. Theodora whimpers. You stare. The knock comes again, faster, now louder. You get out of bed. You shouldn't. You cross the room and fling the wardrobe open. It's empty. No worse. There's nothing in it at all. Not even dust. Not even air. It feels like a void. Like the absence of space pretending to be a closet. You slam it shut. Behind you, the mirror is fogged. And again, a finger draws a single word. Home. You don't sleep again that night. Breakfast is a silent affair. Luke hums tunelessly under his breath while pretending to butter cold toast. Theodora wears sunglasses indoors, claiming a headache. Dr. Montague studies the rim of his teacup as though it might whisper the answers he can't admit aloud. You don't eat. You stare at the spoon, and the spoon stares back. After the dishes are cleared, Dr. Montague finally breaks the silence. We're going to the tower, he says. No suggestion, just fact. The tower is Hill House's most visible feature, a single spire clawing into the sky, like a finger pointing blame. You've passed it before, but never gone in. You always assumed it was locked. But today the door is open. You go first. The staircase inside is a tight spiral, narrow metallic steep. It groans under your weight, like it's warning you with each creak. Turn around. Not this step. Not yet. The others follow at a distance, their footsteps echoing like an argument you're not invited to join. You pause halfway. The air changes. It smells older here, like rusted nails and long-dried blood. Dr. Montague coughs. This is where the companion... He trails off, clears his throat. She hung herself. Just there. You don't ask who found her. You already know. You make it to the top. The view is vast and cold and oddly lonely. The forest stretches endlessly below, and the roof of Hill House looks more twisted from above, like the building itself is writhing to get away from the earth beneath it. Theodora touches your shoulder. You flinch. She looks startled. Sorry. You seemed far away. You nod. You descend slowly. The staircase feels longer on the way down. That afternoon, you return to the parlor. The gramophone is playing by itself again. Soft jazz warped at the edges. Luke mutters, "Did we leave it on?" No one answers. Theodora runs a finger along the piano keys. One note sounds wrong, flat and slow, like it's being played from underwater. Dr. Montague starts another lecture on stone tape theory. The belief that certain environments can record emotional energy like a cassette tape. Tragedy, violence, passion. They all imprint themselves into structures, he explains. Some buildings replay their past, whether they mean to or not. You ask, and if the building doesn't just replay, but responds, he doesn't have an answer. Here's something unnerving for your fact bank. During the 1950s, a fringe group of parapsychologists claimed that houses could act as psychic amplifiers, not just haunted, but sentient. They believed such buildings could manipulate perception to influence or even consume residents emotionally. Historians still argue whether these theories were legitimate science or early symptoms of the madness such houses induced. Later you find Theodora sketching. She says it helps her relax. But when you glance at the paper, your breath catches. She's drawn the library staircase, the nursery door, and something else. A shadow that seems to bleed off the page. It's faceless, but you know it's watching. From the angles, from the way it looms behind the figures. There are 4 figures in the drawing. Only 3 of you are supposed to be visible. That night, you try sleeping in your own room again. You shouldn't, but part of you wants to know, wants to feel the house. It obliges. At 2:37 a.m., you wake to the sensation of someone breathing inches from your face. You don't open your eyes. Not yet. The air smells sweet, like honey and rot. Familiar, but wrong. A weight presses against your chest. You finally open your eyes. Nothing there, but your breath leaves your mouth in visible clouds. And the mirror across the room isn't reflecting your bed. It's reflecting the hallway, where someone is standing. You look toward the door. No one's there. But in the mirror, the figure takes a step forward. You close your eyes and whisper, "I am not home." The footsteps stop, just for now. You awaken just before dawn, heart-racing sheets tangled around your legs like restraints. You half expect to see your breath again, or that figure in the mirror, frozen mid-step. But the room is still. Gray light seeps through the curtains, and everything looks ordinary. But you know better now. You join the others in the sitting room, where Dr. Montague insists on a morning debriefing. He wants to catalog the previous night's occurrences in precise detail. You hesitate at first, but then you speak. About the weight on your chest, about the mirror, that showed the hallway? About the figure. When you finish, the room is silent. Then Theodora clears her throat and says, I heard someone breathing too. Not mine, not yours, just someone. Luke tries to laugh it off. We're letting the house get to us. We're seeing shadows and hearing wind. Dr. Montague doesn't smile. Or the house is showing us things. Testing. Theodora says, what happens when it stops testing? That ends the conversation. You all split off. You try the veranda again. But even outdoors feels tainted now. The trees shift too much. The air seems too thick. So you go to the drawing room and stare at the fireplace. The embers are long gone, but the ash still smells like burnt paper. There's a photograph above the mantel. You haven't noticed it before. It's a woman in Victorian dress, seated stiffly. Her face is partly obscured by damage, an old crack through the glass. But her eyes, they're very clear. Too clear. You step closer. There's a reflection in the glass that doesn't match the room behind you. You turn. Nothing. You turn back. The woman's eyes seem to have shifted. A blink. You step away. Later, Theodora finds you in the hallway. She looks tired. You ask what's wrong. She says the walls are whispering now. You walk together down that hallway near the parlor. The one where the corners bend, and no matter how straight you walk, you always feel like you're drifting. You pause outside a room. I don't think I've seen this one, you say. Theodora says it's not always there. You open the door. Inside, there's nothing but mirrors. Dozens of them. Tall ones, cracked ones, handheld ones. They face each other endlessly, forming reflections inside reflections. As you move forward, you notice something. You're the only one whose reflection doesn't match. In every mirror, Theodora walks beside you. Same pose, same expression. But you. Sometimes you're looking the wrong way. Sometimes your hands are clenched when they're not. Sometimes you're not there at all. You both back out of the room. You don't close the door. It closes itself. Dr. Montague later explains that mirrors were once considered spirit traps, in certain cultures, tools to contain souls or portals through which they could be stolen. Some Victorian houses kept cloths nearby just to cover mirrors during storms or deaths. Historians still argue whether this was a precaution or a tradition born of grim experience. That night, the cold spot returns. Not in the hallway, in your room. It begins in the far corner. You can see your breath again. You place a thermometer there out of curiosity. It drops 5 degrees in seconds. Then 10. Theodora comes in to check on you and pauses at the threshold. You feel that she asks. You nod. It's like the room's sinking, she murmurs. You whisper, like it's folding in on itself. She doesn't argue. The lights flicker, and for a moment, just one flicker, you see something in the far corner. Not clearly, just a shape. A tall one. Thin. Crooked like it forgot how to stand. You blink. It's gone. But the temperature doesn't rise. You both leave the room. Sleep elsewhere. Anywhere else. You choose the drawing room, huddled near the fireplace. The embers glow faintly, even though no one lit them today. And just before you fall asleep, you hear footsteps pass behind the couch. They don't pause. They don't care if you're awake. Because Hill House is no longer trying to scare you. It knows it doesn't have to. You wake to sunlight, and for a moment, you believe the house has spared you. There's a bird outside the window, pecking at a dead branch. A breeze curls under the curtain. You almost think you imagined it all, until you see the message on your mirror, scrawled in a child's handwriting, slightly smudged like a finger dragged through dust. Help Eleanor come home. It wasn't there when you fell asleep. It wasn't there when you checked the mirror before bed. But it's there now, and the worst part, you're not surprised. You wipe it away quickly, as though erasing it will keep you from believing it. But your heart keeps pounding, and for the first time since you arrived at Hill House, you feel like you don't even need the others to confirm what's happening. You already know. At breakfast, you don't mention it. Neither does Theodora. But Luke looks unusually quiet. When Dr. Montague asks about the night, he says only I didn't sleep. No one did. Dr. Montague announces that today you'll all review the floor plans of Hill House. To ensure we're not being manipulated by layout confusion, he says. Theodora rolls her eyes. It's the house doctor, not the blueprints. Still, he insists. So you gather in the parlor around a table where he unrolls an old, brittle map. It's yellowed, drawn in careful ink, with rooms labeled in a delicate hand: parlor, nursery, drawing room, library, cold hall. You blink. Cold hall, you ask. No one answers. You point again. It's labeled right there. Luke leans in. That wasn't on the copy I saw. Theodora frowns. It wasn't on mine either. You all stare. The hall doesn't exist in the actual house. Not exactly. Not by that name. But you realize it's the corridor outside your room, the one where the air never feels right. Dr. Montague looks disturbed for the first time. He rolls up the plans with trembling fingers and excuses himself for notes. You walk the house alone again. You find yourself back at the spiral staircase in the library. It stretches upward like a threadbare spine. You glance up. Something hangs there. A rope. No, a chain. But you blink, and it's gone. You retreat to the parlor and try reading, but the words blur. The fire crackles behind you without warmth. You flip a page, and the print has rearranged itself. Welcome home, Eleanor. You slam the book shut. Here's an unsettling fact for today. In the 1800s, some Victorian families would burn witch letters, messages, found mysteriously written in soot flour or ink in haunted homes. They believed destroying the words would break the spell. Historians still argue whether it worked or simply provoked whatever spirit had written them. Later, Theodora comes to find you. She says she's had a bad afternoon. You don't ask what that means. Her eyes are rimmed red and she's holding her arm like it hurts. She rolls up her sleeve and shows you 3 scratch marks. Perfectly parallel, perfectly spaced. Not deep, but deliberate. I didn't do this, she whispers. You believe her. She leans in and says it wants you, you know. You ask what she means. She steps back. Whatever lives here, it wants you most. You try to laugh. Why me? Her reply is quiet. Because you're listening. That night, you can't bring yourself to sleep alone. You ask Dr. Montague if you can sleep in the study near the others. He says yes, but the others already chose their spaces. You're left with the old couch near the cold chimney. Better than your room. You doze and wake up to music. Soft piano. But the keys aren't being pressed. You sit up. A shadow dances across the far wall, human-shaped gliding, like it's waltzing with a partner. There's no one there, but the smell of roses fills the room, and someone breathes into your ear. I knew you'd come. You don't move, because deep down, some part of you always expected this. The next morning, you don't wake so much as surface, slowly, painfully, like a diver, gasping at the edge of something deep and black. Your throat is dry. Your limbs ache. You slept technically, but it didn't feel like rest. Hill House doesn't let you rest. At breakfast, Theodora avoids your eyes. Luke nurses a burn on his wrist. He says came from touching a cold teacup. Dr. Montague reads aloud from his journal in a strained voice, detailing the scratch marks on Theodora's arm, the music in the night, your account of the dancing shadow. He notes these are increasingly interactive manifestations. You note they're not stopping. The plan for the day, apparently, is simple: explore the nursery. You all vote no, Dr. Montague insists. So you go. The nursery door is locked as always. But this time, Luke's key opens it too easily. The door swings inward with a long, reluctant creak. You're hit immediately by the smell: stale talcum powder, faded wallpaper glue, something sickly sweet that might once have been flowers. Inside, the room is still. Toys sit on high shelves. A rocking horse gathers dust in the corner. A small bed made perfectly is the centerpiece, draped in gauze curtains that haven't moved in decades. But as you step in, the curtains do move, just slightly, like someone hiding behind them breathed out. You circle the bed. Nothing. You and Theodora check the wardrobe empty. Luke taps on the walls, listening for hollows, and that's when the crying starts. Faint, childlike sobs. From nowhere. From everywhere. Theodora freezes. Luke turns pale. Dr. Montague murmurs, "This is it. This is what we came for." You whisper, "We need to leave." But the door is closed. You didn't close it. No one did. You rush to open it, but it doesn't budge. It's not stuck. It's just resisting. Behind you, the crying escalates. A soft wail that climbs into something more like a shriek, piercing and sharp, as if it's trying to cut through your thoughts. Then silence. The door opens on its own. You don't look back. Outside, no one speaks. You scatter. You end up in the library pretending to read. But your eyes are locked on the fireplace. There's something wedged between the bricks. You kneel, dig gently, and pull it out, a photograph browned with age. It's a woman holding a baby. Both of them blurry, like the camera flinched at something just before the click. Scrawled on the back in the same handwriting from the mirror, "Help Eleanor come home." You drop it. Here's today's weird historical tidbit. In some rural American towns in the 1930s, families used spirit photography to prove the presence of ghosts. They'd bring blurred, overexposed photos to mediums who'd circle faint shadows and claim it was Aunt Clara or the neighbor's lost dog. Historians still argue whether these photos were hopeful illusions or if sometimes the ghosts really showed up. Later, Dr. Montague gathers everyone to say, "We are reaching a turning point. The house is escalating. That means it's close to revealing something." Luke mutters, "or devouring something." No one laughs. That night, you don't even try sleeping. You sit by the staircase with a flashlight in your lap, watching the shadows breathe. Sometime around 2 a.m., you hear humming, faint, a child's lullaby. It drifts down the staircase. You climb slowly, step by step. The humming grows louder, and then at the top, nothing. You shine your light. The corridor is empty. But the humming, it's behind you now. You turn, no one there. Just a mirror on the wall. Your reflection is smiling. You're not. You don't tell the others about the mirror. Not because they wouldn't believe you, because they would. And that's the worst part, isn't it? Theodora sees it in your eyes anyway. That look that says something has tipped too far. Something has gone irreversibly strange. You try to explain it away with a joke. "Guess I need to start brushing my teeth in the dark." But your voice sounds too hollow, and she doesn't laugh. Instead, she touches your arm gently and says, "Let's take a walk." You step outside. The air is cold, damp with the threat of coming rain. For a moment, it almost feels normal. Like your two old friends escaping a haunted field trip. But the house looms behind you, its windows reflecting nothing, as if the light is swallowed the moment it hits the glass. You find yourselves circling the house. On the west side, there's an overgrown garden what used to be a hedge maze, perhaps. Stone cherubs sit at the path's entrance, their faces chipped, their eyes mossed over. You step between them, and the air immediately thickens. "I've never seen this before," Theodora murmurs. You nod. "We've walked this way before. This wasn't here." You explore anyway. The garden path loops unpredictably, branches clutching at your sleeves, the ground uneven. Every time you think you've returned to the beginning, you're wrong. Finally, you reach a clearing. In the center, a bird bath filled not with water, but with black feathers. No birds overhead. No breeze. Just silence. And then faintly you hear your name, whispered. You spin around. No one's there. But Theodora's pale. She heard it too. You both return to the house wordless. Inside, Dr. Montague is waiting with his notebook. "We're documenting mirror phenomena today," he announces. You almost laugh. Of course. The mirrors in Hill House are wrong. All of them. They're too clean, too old. And they don't just reflect the room, they reflect what the room wants you to see. You and Theodora take the second floor. Luke and Dr. Montague take the ground. You enter a guest bedroom. 3 mirrors, one above the dresser, one on the closet door, and one in a corner stand. You stand between them, and it happens again. Your reflection delays. Just a blink, a beat too long, enough to raise the hairs on your arms. Then it smiles, a slow, knowing, fond smile. But you're not smiling. You're not even breathing. Theodora backs away. "That's not you," she says. You nod. "It's waiting," she says. You leave the room. Here's something odd from the archives of domestic superstition. In the 17th century, some European families covered their mirrors when a family member died, believing that the soul, upon departure, could become trapped inside the glass. They feared the mirror might begin to show not your reflection, but the soul it captured. Historians still argue whether this was spiritual caution or a cultural metaphor for the grief that distorts your self-image. You don't care what the historians say. You just know that when you pass that mirror again, the reflection doesn't follow your movement right away. That night, Dr. Montague suggests a group seance. Not to conjure, he insists, just to communicate, to invite understanding. Luke flatly refuses. Theodora hesitates. You say yes, because deep down, you already feel like you've been in conversation with the house. Might as well see if it wants to talk back. You gather in the drawing room. Candles. Circle. Hands joined. Dr. Montague begins to speak, asking for names, signs, messages. For a while, nothing. Then the candles flicker, and the gramophone begins to hum, softly, then louder. Then a voice, female, distant, singing something wordless. And in the center of the circle, the flame gutters low, then flares blue. Theodora gasps. You feel it too, like something cold and electric just touched the back of your neck. And then the whisper, "You're almost ready." You all break the circle. Luke bolts from the room. Theodora follows shaking. Dr. Montague just sits there stunned. You remain. Because the voice didn't speak to them. It spoke to you. The next morning, the mirrors are gone. Not all of them, just the ones in your room. You didn't move them. No one did. You check with Theodora. She hasn't touched them. Luke just shrugs. Maybe it's a gift, he says, trying to laugh. But Dr. Montague goes pale. That's unprecedented. Unprecedented, you echo, but not impossible. He doesn't answer. Instead, he scribbles in his notebook again. His hand is shaking. You don't eat breakfast. You don't sit still. Instead, you walk. Through every room, every hall, every corridor that doesn't make sense. The ones that loop back. The ones that shouldn't connect but do. The ones that feel too long, like the house is stretching while you're inside. And you begin to realize something. It's not that the house is shifting. It's that you're the one being repositioned. Dr. Montague catches up to you in the library later that day. You're not afraid of the house anymore, he says. You pause. Should I be? He adjusts his glasses. The house is afraid of you. That's what worries me. That's not comforting. Later, Theodora shows you something. A page torn from one of the old journals stored in the tower, one belonging to a previous researcher. The handwriting is frantic, desperate, fading in places. It reads, "The house doesn't want to kill you. That's not its game. It wants to join with you. It wants you to become one of its thoughts. A memory stored inside the walls. You won't rot. You'll just echo." She says, "Sound familiar?" You nod, because you've begun to feel it too. Like there's a second heartbeat in your chest, not yours. That night you avoid your room entirely. You sleep, if you can call it that, on the parlor floor again, your back to the fireplace. It crackles, even though no one lit it. The flames are too still, too blue. You drift off and dream of the nursery. It's full of people. Now women in long dresses, children running a man in the corner with no face. They all smile when you enter, but they don't blink. And when you try to leave, they close the door. You wake with your hand on the doorknob. Not the parlor's, your room's. The door is open. The bed is perfectly made. A flower rests on your pillow again, but this time it's wilted, dry, crumbling, like someone placed it there a long, long time ago. Here's your fringe fact for the evening. Some folklore insists haunted houses aren't haunted by ghosts, but by time itself. That certain places become so emotionally saturated they peel open in layers, and if you stand still long enough, you slip between them. Historians still argue whether these temporal thin spots are metaphor or metaphysics. But you're beginning to understand something horrifying. It doesn't matter, because whether the house is haunted by time, or ghosts, or memory, it has you now. You spend the rest of the day in silence. Even Theodora seems distant. She draws endlessly, now spirals, corners, loops that resemble Hill House's impossible hallways. Luke paces. Dr. Montague stares out the window and murmurs about resonant frequencies and perceptual anchoring. You feel like you're on a boat, slowly drifting from shore, and no one's steering anymore. That evening, the mirror in the parlor cracks. No one's near it. No sound. Just crack. It splits down the middle, and instead of reflecting the room, it shows something else. The nursery, but not empty. A girl stands there, hair down, back turned, and slowly, she begins to turn. You shut your eyes. And when you open them, the mirror is whole again, unbroken. But the reflection is still wrong, because now it's nighttime in the glass, and your reflection is smiling again. Theodora won't go near you now, not out of fear. Something worse, pity. She looks at you like you're already half vanished, like your shadow doesn't quite connect to your feet anymore, like she's already rehearsing your eulogy. You hear her whispering to Luke. "She's changing," she says. Luke repeats. Theodora doesn't answer. They think you can't hear, but the house makes sound travel differently. That morning, her room bleeds, not metaphorically. The walls are streaked with red. Her clothes slashed neatly surgically, like a child with too much time and a pair of scissors. No one sees anyone enter or leave. Theodora blames you. You don't blame her, because honestly, it might have been you. You don't remember sleeping. But your fingers ache. Your nails are cracked. There's a red smear on your sleeve. Not quite blood, not quite paint. Dr. Montague tries to calm everyone down. "The house is dividing us," he says. "It wants chaos. Fracture," Luke mutters. "It's winning." You wander the hallways alone after that. The mirrors have returned. At first, you thought the house had taken them away for good. But now, they're back rearranged. different frames, some standing where no mirror had ever hung, others embedded directly into walls. Every one of them smiles. Every one of them lingers just a little longer after you walk away. The worst part, you've stopped flinching. You stop eating. Food tastes off metallic, like licking pennies. The kitchen always smells like burning toast now, even when nothing is cooking. Theodora stays far from you. Luke sleeps with the door locked. You don't sleep at all. One night, while pacing the third-floor hall, you hear a knock. Not on a door, on the wall. 3 taps, then silence, then 2 taps. You knock back. Hill House knocks once more, and then the hallway stretches. The wallpaper begins to ripple, breathing in and out. The floor feels like gelatin. You clutch the railing. Try to close your eyes, but something whispers behind your teeth. You're almost there. You run, not away, toward the nursery. The door is open this time. Inside, it's freezing. The rocking horse rocks. The dollhouse is lit from within, though no candles burn. And on the tiny bed, there's a note folded into a perfect triangle. Your name on the outside. Inside it reads, "Let me in." That's all. You crumple it, or try to. The paper doesn't crease. It just hums softly in your hand. You leave the nursery, but it follows you. Later, you try burning the note. It won't catch. The flame curls away, as if scared to touch it. You bury it in the fireplace ash. It reappears on your pillow. This is how the house works now. Subtle, patient, like a vine curling around your ankle. You think about running. But when you check the front door, it's gone. Just a wall now. Seamless. Theodora screams that night. You all rush to her room. She's staring at the mirror. There's no reflection. None. Not for her. Not for you. Not for anyone. Just an empty room. She sobs. Luke kicks the glass in. It shatters. It doesn't bleed, but it feels like it should. Dr. Montague sits everyone down. It's no longer about observation, he says. We are in communion. The house is speaking directly, constantly. He looks at you, especially to you. You nod, because you've started hearing your name when you're alone. You've started answering. Here's something grim. The phrase "a house remembers" wasn't just poetic. It was literal to some 19th century philosophers. They believed buildings could develop sentience through cumulative memory trauma, acting as neurons' walls, storing echoes like scars. Historians still argue whether this was psychobabble or proto-architecture theory. You're done arguing. That night, you dream of the staircase. But this time, you're not climbing. You're hanging. You wake, gasping, your hands clutching your throat, like you expect to find a rope still there. There's none. Just the faint smell of old dust and rope fiber. You sit upright, cold sweat pooling under your neck. The bed creaks beneath you. Not the one in your room, but a guest bed. You didn't fall asleep here. You don't even remember walking here. This is happening more often now. Lost time. Displaced space. Theodora won't even look at you anymore. Luke pretends he's not afraid, but his eyes always track you. Like you're a ticking clock in the center of the room. Dr. Montague is the only one still pretending this is scientific. But even he knows. Hill House is winning. You try to write a note to yourself to remember who you are. You write, "My name is Eleanor." Then scratch it out. "My name is..." But that's as far as you get. The pen runs dry. The paper crumbles. Your name doesn't feel real anymore. You walk the halls. You pass a mirror. You wave at yourself. It doesn't wave back. And this time, you don't move either. You just stare, both of you. And then your reflection lifts its hand and taps the glass once, then points down the hallway. You don't want to follow, but you do, because that's what the house wants. And you want what it wants. You reach the parlor again. The gramophone is already playing. It's that same waltz from days ago, elegant looping. You move slowly barefoot. and you start to dance, alone, until someone's hand brushes yours. You spin startled. No one there, but the music continues, so you keep dancing. Theodora finds you like that, frozen mid-step, hands lifted in a ghostly pose. She screams your name. You blink, and the music stops. She helps you sit. You need to get out. You shake your head. I can't. It won't let me. She grabs your shoulders. We'll leave tonight. We'll break a window, climb the trees, anything. You nod. You both know it's a lie. That night, Luke disappears, gone without a word. Dr. Montague finds a note by the front door, scribbled in chalk. I had to leave before she saw me. She. The house. You. You don't ask. Later. Theodora comes into your room, crying. I'm scared I'm next, she says. You reach to comfort her, but she flinches. You both pretend it didn't happen. Here's a fringe belief you come across while flipping through Dr. Montague's dusty library. In ancient Rome, people believed certain buildings could become anima loci, spirits of place, not just homes for spirits, but beings themselves. Sentient structures. Historians still argue whether this was symbolic of architecture or a warning. You go to sleep that night in the cold spot, on purpose. The room is freezing, the corner darker than pitch. You lie there waiting, and when the ceiling begins to drip, not water, but ink, you don't scream. You just let it fall. A single word appears on your forehead in the mirror. Welcome. You whisper, I'm already home. And for once your reflection nods. You don't remember falling asleep, but you remember waking up. You're in the nursery again. This time, it's different. There are no toys, no dust, no rocking horse. Just you and the crib. Empty, rocking gently. A soft lullaby hums from nowhere and everywhere. The wallpaper is smooth now. No scribbled words. No peeling corners. Just pure white glowing faintly. Then you see it. Your name. Etched into the floorboards in small deliberate letters. Eleanor Vance. You kneel. Touch the groove. It's real. And something shifts inside you. Not fear. Not even curiosity. Acceptance. You turn, expecting the others to be behind you. They're not. You're alone. But not really. Because you feel the house's attention. Warm and alert. Like a breath waiting to be drawn. You walk out of the nursery. The house greets you like an old friend. The corridor lights flicker softly. Mirrors line the walls. Every one. Reflecting not your face, but moments. Little scenes. You laughing at breakfast. Theodora reaching for your hand. Luke stealing cookies. Dr. Montague reciting names of ghosts. Then other scenes, darker ones. You scratching at the floor. You sleeping in the cold spot. You dancing in the parlor. You watching from the mirror. You begin to hum. The lullaby now familiar. It spills out of your mouth like you've always known it. You don't walk. You float. Each step lighter, each corner smoother. The house no longer repels you. It opens. Theodora finds you in the main hallway, staring at your reflection. You look different, she says. You smile. I feel it. She starts crying. We need to go. You place a hand on her shoulder. But I am home. She backs away, runs. You don't follow. Dr. Montague tries again, tries pleading. He says, Eleanor, the house has been inside others before. They all leave. They break free. You shake your head. They weren't listening. He starts packing. He's leaving tonight. So is Theodora. Luke, he suspects, is long gone. You nod politely. Wish them well. You lie. Because you know they won't leave. Not really. Not all of them. And even if they do, something stays behind. They'll carry it forever. Here's today's unnerving historical whisper. During a 1924 seance in Vermont, a woman swore that the house she'd lived in since birth had once called her name so sweetly she never wanted to marry or move away. She died in the attic at 86, alone. Historians still argue if she was possessed or simply content. You start writing your own messages now, not in chalk, not in ink, but in whispers. You speak to the walls, to the floorboards, to the echoes, and they speak back. You sit in the library with the cracked staircase and watch dust spiral in the moonlight. Every grain has purpose now. Every groan of wood is a sentence. Every flicker of candlelight is a response. That night, you return to your room. It's been rearranged. There's no bed, just the mirror, just the flower, just you. You sit on the floor, hands folded in your lap. The reflection smiles first. You smile back. The next morning arrives with no sunlight, no birds, no wind, just silence. And the hum of Hill House's breath, low patient, surrounding you like a blanket pulled up to your chin. You walk the halls barefoot. The floor doesn't creak anymore. It welcomes each step like a heartbeat waiting to sink. Theodora is gone. Dr. Montague, too. You know because their rooms are empty, not messy, not hastily abandoned, just empty, like they were never there. The house is clean now, settled, whole. You are not afraid. You make tea in the kitchen. Real tea, hot and bitter. The steam curling upward in graceful spirals that speak in a language only you understand. The sugar bowl is full again. The spoons all gleam. You hum to yourself. The same lullaby. It fits now. It was always yours. In the mirror above the stove, your reflection matches perfectly. Even the smile. You take the tea into the parlor. Sit in the corner chair where you first met them all. Dust no longer gathers on the window panes. The gramophone waits for your touch. You don't wind it. It plays anyway. A waltz. Soft, elegant, endless. Later you wander outside. The front door is back. You open it. Beyond it only fog. Thick, silver-gray fog that stretches forever. You step onto the porch, and the boards don't groan. The steps welcome your weight. But you don't go further, because this house is home. It wants you. You want it. Inside, you find the nursery one last time. The crib is gone. There's just the mirror now. And in the mirror, you don't see yourself. You see the hallway. Someone walking. Closer. Until you realize it's not someone. It's you. But from days ago, before the house accepted you, before you stopped resisting. She doesn't see you, but you remember this moment. It's the night you first heard the reflection breathe. You press your hand to the glass. On the other side, you do too. Only now there's no barrier. You pass through. The world folds. The house sighs. Everything aligns. One last historical note, tucked deep in Dr. Montague's journals. Some early paranormal scholars believe that houses don't become haunted. They're born haunted, living beings that lure caretakers, friends, lovers, not to harm, not to haunt, but to fuse, to become a single, seamless memory. Historians still argue whether Hill House is cursed. You don't. You know. You sit in the nursery, not waiting, just being, because you're no longer a guest. You're a story, a whisper, a smile in the glass, a name carved into the floor. You are Hill House, and Hill House is you, and so you remain, not as a scream trapped in the walls, not as a ghost drifting through cracked hallways, but as a breath the house will never exhale. The silence in the rooms is softer now, like velvet draped across old furniture. The mirrors no longer reflect, not because they are empty, but because they're full. Of you, of the others who came before, of the ones who will come again. The house is patient. It always has been. Time moves differently here. Slower, deeper, like water thick with memory. You hear laughter sometimes your own. A giggle curled around the edges of the nursery, a whisper from the attic, a humming beneath the floorboards. And when the storms come and the fog presses tight against the windows, you're not afraid, because you've become something timeless, not just remembered remembering. And perhaps someday another will arrive, with their suitcase, their theories, their brittle courage. They'll cross the threshold, thinking they can measure the house, map it, record it. But you'll be here, waiting, watching, welcoming. You'll walk the halls beside them, footsteps silent. You'll appear in the mirror, just for a second, smiling, and they'll feel it, that slight chill, that sense of being seen. They'll ask themselves, was that just my imagination? And the house will answer, in its own time, with its own voice, and maybe, just maybe, they'll stay. So now, if you're still listening, and the room around you feels just a bit too quiet, if you think you saw something move in the corner of your eye, don't worry. It's probably just the house saying goodnight. Sleep well.